All right. Okay. Well, welcome back to the Retro Bros.
Have you actually ever been bought a handheld console?
I think the first handheld console I got was one I bought myself, which would have been the Game Boy Advance when that launched, and actually had a job. And
I remember that Game Boy Advance. I remember it so clearly because you had. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It was like there was a couple of options with the Game Boy Advance, right? You either had the purple one, or you had the one that was sort of like see-through, so you could see the mechanism inside, and there was the white one. Now, I'm pretty sure you had the one that was a bit see-through. Is that right?
No, I had the white one.
I remember it so clearly.
I don't remember that clearly, but I remember you getting it. I was like, this is amazing, because it looked like Nintendo have always done such cool things with the design of their console, especially like the handheld stuff.
I think the Game Boy Advance was was a brilliant console. Like, I loved it, but it was so difficult to see. It was so difficult to see. Like,
it was a nightmare.
I literally bought a special light that I'd seen that was recommended from IKEA to play with that. And I had it over my shoulder, and I had to angle the screen at exactly the right so it didn't reflect off the screen. And then it looked brilliant, right?
Yeah.
But you had to hold it in exactly that position. So it was just like, even the SP, like the original light for that was quite rubbish too. I mean, it was quite, it was okay.
Yeah.
But like, you compare it, like that is one area where I think that the Game Gear was quite appealing, because the screen was so bright. And even when you get to the SP, it was like, there was a further revision of the SP where the screen was a bit brighter, but there was this kind of pre-backlit era, and then afterwards. Yeah. I was willing to put up with it, but it was, like, when I try and play it now, I'm like, what on earth? Like, I'll play this.
That was when the graphics got better. When the SP came out, you had that backlit screen, which you're right about the light, but the thing is, the light got dimmer with the battery. And it was a rechargeable battery that worked. Like, you would charge it up and play it for hours. It would last forever. And it was like indestructible. Big screen, you can close it. It was a nice small size, so you could still carry it around with you. And I don't know, it was great. It's like a little laptop. And the games that really, really stuck out to me on that. One, Steve, you got me, and everyone was jealous of this game. It was so fun because it was made up of so many games, and that was WarioWare. The original WarioWare on the Game Boy Advance, and it was brilliant. Like, it was so fun.
Wario was great. Like, I loved it. Like, so like a lot of high score chasing. I like those kind of games. But I mean, the Game Boy Advance is a special one for me because, like I said, it was really the first one that I bought for myself. And because I was working at the time, like I worked in the cinema. And actually, I remember I got you some Pokemon merch to make up for how sad you were. The Game Boy Advance, like, I would go into HMV and I would buy the games new, and they weren't that expensive, and they were like good. Like Final Fight 1 was just awesome. Like, I played it for ages and ages and ages, and I think the standout ones for me on that were Final Fight 1, Advance Wars, which was just a complete time sink. And the very first Super Mario Advance game that came out on it, right? So Super Mario Advance was actually Super Mario Brothers 2, right? Yeah. The kind of the ugly stepchild of the Mario games, or the different one. But that was my first ever NES game. So for me, it was perfect. Yeah. It was like, I can play this, my old like NES original experience, like in my hand right now. And as long as I play it under a really strong light, it looks even better than it used to.
I remember seeing you play some of those games, but the only games I vividly remember on the Game Boy Advance, which is strange because I did have one, were Street Fighter Alpha 3.
Yeah.
Which I think we used to pass around a lot. And,
yeah.
Like, you play it. Golden Sun, which I think you bought me again, Steve. I'm pretty sure you bought me Golden Sun. That was hands down my favourite Game Boy Advance game. It was just, I just got so absorbed in that world. It was so atmospheric. Even though it was, like we were saying, it's so hard to see it. When you did get the light in the right spot, I could just sit there for hours playing Golden Sun. So they're the two for me that really stuck out.
I mean, it's funny because the Game Boy Advance is something I played. When it got to the SP is when I started playing it loads. the game started getting really advanced later in life. So as soon as the SP came out, you had games like Zelda Minish Cap, which is like brilliant. Like of the Zeldas, if you go back and play it now, it's such a brilliant game. And it played with him getting bigger and smaller. And so you'd walk into a shop and whatever, and you'd buy something, but then you'd go small and go back into that shop, and you could like see it from above and stuff. It was really cool, and it was detailed. The graphics were much better. So Zelda Minish Cap was great.
Didn't you get it in one of the Retro Bros episodes? I feel like you've mentioned it before.
No, I might have mentioned it in an episode, but I had that when I was younger, much younger.
I feel like we bought it though. You like rebought it when we went to like one of the stores. I think it might have been Ashford. Anyway, if I find it, I'll put it on screen.
Yeah, maybe. Like maybe I did, because that was a excellent game.
And this is one you don't hear talked about as much, but I remember loving it so much and I haven't played it for years. And that's Zelda Minish Cap for the Game Boy Advance.
That Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which for me was mind-blowing as well, because of all the Mario games. You've played Mario, we know what Mario is, right? That has been done. And when we were younger, there was Super Mario RPG that we had played on, I'm pretty sure we'd only played that on emulation, but we were like, hey, there's a Mario RPG game, and RPGs for us were like obviously they're RPGs, they're brilliant, they're so immersive when you're younger. And it was a bit weird, it was great, it was a great game, but we never had it on a console. But Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga was insanely good. Like it was brilliant, and I spent hours playing that, like you do with any RPG. But it was an RPG of Mario and Luigi. It was great.
It's got so many excellent features, and because it's an RPG, something that actually Mario hadn't really done much in the past, the harder you work, the better the game becomes for you. They made a few sequels, but this original one for me, it's the one that topped it.
So that for me, yeah, so Minish Cap, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, WarioWare, it was Sonic, I want to say Sonic Advance. I played quite a lot of. Yeah. And there's F-Zero I had, I think, as well, which was good.
Yeah, well, actually, I meant to mention F-Zero, and I was just thinking that all of our memories, the favourite Game Boy Advance games, are different, which like goes to show something. Like you mentioned Street Fighter Alpha 3, Adam, and I do remember that, but you know what? I can't remember whether I actually had it or not. And I'm like a big Street Fighter fan, and I definitely had Super Street Fighter 2 on the Game Boy Advance, right? And I think that was quite a good benchmark. Fighting games and racing games is quite a good benchmark for like how powerful a console is, like especially for handheld. And the only like decent Street Fighter that had been out, there was Street Fighter on the Game Boy, right? But the only decent Street Fighter 2 that had been out before that was on the PC Engine, because there's a handheld version of that, which was basically like impossible to get hold of. Like you have to be really rich or like an adult, like who just liked games at the time, and import it. And so that was like my first like handheld proper Street Fighter. And I think by the time Alpha 3 came around, maybe I was busy playing on consoles or something.
I'm pretty sure I traded. So eventually there was a kid, like, you know your kids, Steve. I had a kid who had all the best games. I always got them brand new when they came out, right? And but I had WarioWare, and he loved it. He couldn't get it anywhere. Mate, you got it for me, Steve. So I don't know if it was rare or something, or from London or an import. And he traded me like 8 Game Boy games for it, like 8 Game Boy Advance games. And one of them was Street Fighter Alpha 3. And some of them were like some samurai game and some other like Dross or whatever. But yeah, one of them was Street Fighter Alpha 3, and that's how I got it.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember it being really fun, you know, and I wasn't huge on Street Fighter. I played it a bit on the SNES, but I was always more of a Mortal Kombat person. So like playing Street Fighter Alpha 3, was it on the Street Fighter Alpha 2 on the PlayStation as well? I don't know. There was 2 that I played a lot. One of them was on the PlayStation.
Yeah, we had it on the PlayStation.
Yeah, all of them were on the PlayStation. Well, I don't know about number 3. Crap, I have to look it up. But number 2 was actually on the SNES as well.
Okay. Well,
although I knew one person who had it, and I never really played it.
So obviously, Steve, you've got kids now. Do any of them play any of these old games?
Yeah, man. Like I've got like this fantastic video of. So my oldest is like nearly 10 now, right? And I've got a really good video. I don't think he was really like early getting into games. My youngest is quite early getting into games, and he's quite good at them. But the other one, who wasn't really so good, is now. I remember I've got this video of him.
With like pure pride there.
I've got this video of him, coming to me with the Game Boy Advance SP. We just had one lying around. I don't know why.
No, I gave it to you. I gave it to Oscar for his birthday. Yeah, and he was.
We still have it.
Yeah, go on.
And I had Super Mario Brothers. You know, the Nintendo classic Super Mario Brothers original, and he completed the first level. And he was like, that was his moment of pride. So his first moment of pride in a video game, not by design, I didn't force retro games on him, was him completing the first level of Super Mario Brothers and not just dying to that first Goomba every time.
On Super Mario Brothers, I've made the whole level. You can see, as you can see.
That's so good.
Wow.
That's so good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like I got you a mini, like one of those mini Megadrive, like rip-off handheld consoles once, and you were like, what the hell is this?
You did, and I kept meaning to crack it, like to put some other ROMs on there, but I just never got around to it in the end. Like, just have so much to play, and I must admit I've actually given that away to a good home, to like a kid.
Well,
like
that's fine. Yeah, I mean,
who will play it.
I did actually get you one as well, didn't I, Jamie?
No, yeah, no, I was like, hang on, that sounds familiar. I played that loads. That was much later in life. That was like when I was in uni or something. Yeah. But I played that loads. That's great. I've still got it. Yeah. And it puts an SD card on the top, and you can play columns. You can play all the greats on there, man. Yeah, it's great. Really good. But do you know what? Just while we're still on Game Boy Advance, because it's such a like amazing console, I've suddenly another memory's flashed up in my head. You were talking about breaking stuff, Steve, like as in like hacking it or whatever. I remember when I moved to London to go to college, and you had the Game Boy Micro, man. So look how many journeys like the Game Boy Advance has been on this, like the Game Boy Advance, I'm pretty sure there's like a Game Boy Advance Lite or something. So it was the original Game Boy Advance, but it had like a backlight. Is that right, Steve? You know about this?
I don't know if any like official, like the original Game Boy Advance came out like with a backlight, but certainly people retrofit them because they prefer the design of like the original, like face-on console, which is still good, but like the screen is the terrible letdown. Yeah, I had a Micro, and a silver one. I loved it. It is unfortunately a little bit too small for my hands, and so is the SP after like a long time. So I do prefer the original, the hardware. And I gave that Micro away to one of my girlfriend's nephews, and I really hope he enjoyed it. I really hope so, because I loved it.
Just the fact that they were so small and cute, but they kind of reminded me of like a NES controller or something like that.
2 buttons, little tiny screen,
very
put it in
square, and I just remember just thinking that was amazing. But I never had one. Yeah, it kind of came out like so far after like handhelds for me that like,
they're quite difficult to get in good condition now as well. So if you see one at boot sale, snap it up.
Progressing on from like the Game Boy Advances and stuff. Actually, just before we progress on, I think, have you got anything to say? Well, I was bought a Neo Geo Color, right? So Neo Geo Pocket Color. And I can't remember. Steve, I think you got it for me. And I can't remember any of the games I had on it. I remember having it, and I remember you could turn it on without a game, and it would show you like your horoscope and some other stuff. But Steve, can you remember like the Neo Geo or the WonderSwan at all?
Well, like those times were good because there wasn't like I said, from the Game Gear, there wasn't really like a sequel to the Game Gear, right? And then there was the Game Boy 1.5, which is the kind of Game Boy Color, and then the Game Boy Advance. But then you start to get this. I can't remember whether the Neo Geo Pocket Color and Neo Geo Pocket came out before the Game Boy Advance. I have to check it out. I have to fact check that, right? But at that time, I had some money. Like I could afford those things. It seems great, so I bought one. Bought a new game every week or something. Well, so that's how it felt, right? And I remember the Neo Geo, because the Neo Geo as a brand, when I was younger, I had one friend who had one, good friend of mine, but we'd moved away from each other, so I only got to play it like in the holidays. And I remember it was a super expensive console that like barely anyone had. So this was like the nearest we could kind of get to the Neo Geo brand, was to have this like pocket console, which didn't have anything like the same games on it anyway. But yeah, no, I remember I enjoyed that. It didn't have a backlit screen. There was a black and white version.
The Pocket Color did. The Pocket Color had a backlit screen.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure because I remember it. But I tell you what didn't have a backlit screen was the original WonderSwan, because you had a WonderSwan And there's a really funny story about this because obviously, like you said, you'll buy new games every week, like out, like, you know, I've got a job now, live in London, buy these things. And so you bought Wonder Swan and you were like, show me. And we had at the time, right, we had Beat Mania on the PlayStation and we were mad because it was great. Like Beat Mania is an incredibly good game. But you had Beat Mania on the Wonder Swan, right? And I was like, how does that even work?
Did,
and you attach your little turntable to the side of the Wonder Swan. And I was like, so you imagine like a handheld console with a little turntable on it and these buttons. And I was going, and you were like, yeah, it's so cool. Like, it's the coolest thing. So I was like, rushed downstairs, went onto eBay. Like next week, I was like, yeah, looking around. I was like, yes. And I bidded on one. Can you remember this?
I remember it. I do remember it. Yeah.
So I bidded on it. And I was like, I was waiting. I was like, yes. And upstairs I heard, yes. And I went, Steve, guess what? I just bought a Wonder Swan. And you went, what? And then you came downstairs. And I had bidded on your Wonder Swan online. So I had just bought it. And the thing is, like, if you think about it now, it's actually fine. Like, I could have just given you the money and bought it off you. But at the time, you were really angry, I think. Like,
did I make you pay for it? Or did I just cancel it or what?
I don't know. I think you were probably annoyed at me because you felt bad about taking your little brother's money. But, like, I think at the time I was like, I'll pay.
Yeah, I do remember that, yeah. No, I mean, like I said, like, it was a good time. If you had any money then and you were into games, there was a few options. And Neo Geo Pocket and Neo Geo Pocket Color, they were good. Like, they were playable. They had different kinds of games as well. And then, of course, and eBay was just kind of taking off at the time and pretty not quite as dodgy or like as it is now. You know, I guess as a buyer now it's okay, but like yeah, you know, I bought these things from Japan. I didn't even have time to play them all. Like at that point, it was like, it wasn't like when you were young and you had loads of time but only a couple of games. Like now it was like, yeah, I'll buy this because it looks cool and I can get it on eBay and I can trade some other stuff and like make some money off of these like import games. But I don't think I probably played it anywhere like as much as I played the Game Boy Advance.
I'm thinking about it after that. It's definitely the DS.
DS.
So the original DS, I had the silver, the one that looked horrible, basically. Like
One
it
that
came
broke,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, it broke. And then I got the DS Lite. But that's where I stopped with the DS. And then really, I don't think I've had another handheld after the DS Lite. Not really. I had the N-Gage for a while. Like, anybody remember that? It's crazy. A mobile phone that was a constant. I had a few games for it as well. I had like Tomb Raider and a few games. Pandemonium maybe. But that was a crazy idea.
Did you ever buy the PSP?
Oh yeah, I had a PSP. But they were so badly designed, the games particularly, right? That they would just, I think I mentioned it in a Retro Bros episode, be careful when you're buying games for the PSP because they looked cool at the time. They were in a little plastic casing, right? That would just like snap, it would just peel off. Like, and when we used to trade them in when I worked at the game store, just you'd have to check that and like, you know, 6 out of 10 games would just be broken, peeling away.
Yeah, it's a shame really that none of us have got experience with a PSP because I did always want one. They had a massive screen. They looked like a real premium handheld. You know, again, it was like maybe like slightly similar kind of to how the Game Gear or the Lynx looked compared to the Game Boy. The PSP was this like super advanced thing and it made the DS look rubbish. So it's a shame that none of us have got really like that. Give that PSP input.
I remember they brought out Power Stone on PSP, and the only console that they brought out after the Dreamcast. And I remember just thinking, why is this not? This would be a great game to play. So why is it not on any other console except for the PSP? I think they brought out the collection of both of them. I saw it in the shop at the time, and I was like, what? How is this here? This is a Sega game. You know, I was so annoyed. But yeah, that's the only game I remember actually wanting like to buy that console for.
Yeah, but like you said, Jamie, the DS was good. Like we probably, I don't know if we should skip over it because it was such a good console, and we probably again.
I don't think we should skip over it. Sorry, I was mentioning it because that's sort of where mine ends. But I just reamed off a whole thing about the Game Boy Advance. But I was also playing a lot of my Game Boy Advance games on the DS. Because that was what was cool. After the DSi, I was really upset that they lost the backwards compatibility. That's actually why I never upgraded, because the DS Lite was all I needed. I remember getting the DS Lite on launch. I remember getting the DS on launch. And I got like Mario 64, basically. Like, hang on. Mario 64 on handheld. Like, that was obviously a whole step up graphically. I was like, this is crazy. And, you know, the DS brought out far, far better, like, more like advanced games after that. But I remember thinking it was different, you know, it was a completely different game. But I remember really enjoying that. I had a few games. I had New Super Mario Brothers on it, I think.
Brain training.
Everyone had brain training, yeah.
I just remember that when the DS came out, everyone had brain training. Like, even Mum was playing brain training. It was like the new Tetris at the time.
What was it called though? What brain training? Something.
Dr. Kawashima's brain training.
That's the one. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
It's difficult because the DS was around for so long, like from the original DS, and like you said, you can use Game Boy games in it, your Game Boy Advance games, right? Even could you use Game Boy games? I don't think you could use original Game Boy games. Maybe you could.
Yeah, you could. You could play original Game Boy games in it.
No, maybe you couldn't.
You couldn't in the DS Lite. You could in the. Oh, hang on. No, maybe you
because
couldn't.
you could use them in the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, I'm getting confused with the SP. Yeah, you're right.
You could play your Game Boy Advance like library, and then you could buy DS games as well. And then the DS never really died, like because you had the DS and it went on. It was DS Lite, and well, like you said, the DSi that I didn't have. But then even the 3DS, right? So I didn't have a 3DS at launch. I ended up getting an XL. You can play all your DS games on that. So it never really died. Like that like library of games, you can still play. You can still play, and for me, it's like there isn't like the strong like delineation between, like, for example, Master System and Megadrive games or something like that. There's just like DS games. Oh yeah, this one happens to be a 3DS game. I can also play that. This one happens to be a DS game. I didn't even notice.
Did you ever actually play any 3DS games?
Any 3DS games? Yeah, I've got tons of 3DS games. But like, do you mean like ones that specifically relied on 3D?
Yeah. Like that kind of died, didn't it?
The problem with the 3D effect was that if you moved the console while you were playing it, it would snap you out of like the 3D effect. And unfortunately, apparently I'm someone who moves the console a lot as I play. So I just end up turning it off. But apparently the new 3DS. The technology in that was a lot better, and I really thought I'm going to pick one of those up eventually. So I end up getting a 3DS XL, and I remember wanting one for ages. You know, obviously like older now, but still like money. I had less money, and I remember thinking like I can't justify getting one because I'd moved over here to Finland, and they were really expensive. They're about €300. And I remember I went into a shop, and there was one on sale for 140 with €140 with Super Mario, with Mario Kart 7. And I just remember thinking like, I've got to get this because you never get good bargains here, and this is actually genuinely a good bargain. And I got it, and I still got that hardware, and we still play it.
You played that loads. Like I remember you took it everywhere with you. Like you played it a lot.
What was you were playing an RPG? I just can't remember the name of it.
Dragon Quest?
All the time.
Yeah, I played Dragon Quest 9.
Dragon Quest. Yeah.
It was a DS game, so I could have played it like a long time previously, but I ended up picking it up cheap because the DS games were kind of old, and so I picked it up in Argos for a tenner, and it's brilliant. Like it was one of my favorite RPG handheld RPG experiences. I think.
So what are your favorite like RPG handheld experiences? Like obviously you've just mentioned Dragon Quest.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to say Pokemon shaped me. Like, I bought Pokemon like Shield for Emma recently, and she's playing that now, and even now Pokemon's transcended time. Like it's so like such a great game. It's such a great, what do you call it, like dynasty of games. It's such an amazing world. So definitely Pokemon, but also, yeah, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga was one that really stuck out for me. The handheld, yeah.
For me, like RPGs, they're so you need so much time. You need to plug lots of time into them, and something that I'm not necessarily time rich, or well, maybe these days, these lockdown days. But it's always been like a bit of a regret that there's so many good RPGs on the 3DS and the DS as well, which I haven't got to experience. I mean, I've got Golden Sun DS, I've never played it, or I've started it, but then I was like, oh, I've just finished playing Dragon Quest, I can't do this. I think, well, if you think about Fire Emblem isn't necessarily a traditional like RPG. It's like a SRPG, something like strategy. I would say it's more like a strategy game, right? But that Fire Emblem Awakening, the first one on the 3DS, I put like a lot of hours into. That was that like reignited my playtime on the console.
About the end of the handheld era, I suppose that brings us all the way up to the Switch, which isn't really retro enough to talk about.
You obviously had the Wii U, right? Which
No.
was,
I've still got the Wii U, yeah, and I mean the Wii U doesn't count as a handheld console. It's like this kind of prototype step towards the Switch in a way. But you can play handheld on this boxy like controller thing, which is not very elegant, you know.
So
in bed, as long as you're in the same room and not too far away from the TV, you can play like a handheld Dr. Mario, or even SNES games, or even N64 games, or even full console games. Like, so it was kind of cool in a way. But the Switch really, it's like the culmination. Like, you can play brand new modern games. You can play Breath of the Wild, right? You can play Skyrim, even though it's not particularly modern now. But you can play like you get this idea of like back in the day, like Mega Man on the Game Boy is a cut down version of the original Mega Man, right? Super Mario Land is a different kind of game, but there's like there's got to always be stuff cut down and cut out, right? But then all of a sudden you've got this like the full console experience, but it also has all those retro games as well. So you've got this kind of library, this vast library of different era gaming, and you can do it all handheld. So I mean, I can't really see like another handheld console happening now.
No, I mean,
it'd just be like variations of the Switch moving forward, like better graphics or more powerful or whatever. But it's like, they did what the Wii U was trying to do.
Like the Wii U was just a premature Switch. I mean, what we thought before the Wii U came out, what we thought it was going to be is, I finished playing, I'll take my handheld and I'll go and play it. But you couldn't do that, like you said, Steve. You had to be near it, and so when the Switch came out, you're like, well, yeah, that's what it was meant to be. It's a brilliant console. Since having it bought for me, I play retro on it all the time. I've got like the original NES Joy-Cons for it. So like me and you were on a plane to like wherever, like we went. I think me and you got on a plane and we're traveling somewhere. I got out my Switch, set up the screen, and we both we were playing Dr. Mario on takeoff. Like, that's crazy that we can do that. We can play retro, stay true to our roots, but also just have it handheld.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we miscount the Switch Lite, because the Switch Lite genuinely is a handheld only console.
I was really in two minds of maybe getting a Switch Lite. Every reviewer who's reviewed it has said, I don't want to like it, because everything about it is like, well, it's not a Switch. You can't switch. Like, you can't switch. There's loads of compatibility that's taken away from that. You can't play it on the TV. It's not like you can hook it up to the TV. Even the data transfer, like if you have both consoles, is difficult. But if you're just buying it as a standalone handheld, apparently it's brilliant. Like,
and that kind of takes us back. Like, right now, all of three of us are imagining, like, well, why would you buy it? You've got the option of buying the big one or the small one. And yeah, the big one suits me better. But like, if you're a kid and you got your birthday allowance, or like, you know that your parents might stretch to a couple of hundred, and the Switch is closer to 200 than it is to 300, right? I don't know how much it costs there in
that's
pounds,
exactly.
but in euros, it's like there's a difference between 200 and 300. There's even a difference between, like, if some kid wants a PlayStation 4, you might think, well, now of course you get PS4 Pro, but PS4 Pro here is 400, and the PS4 is 300, and so that is quite a significant difference, even though we don't necessarily like give it so much weight. But it's nice to just be able to go in and the TV is free, and you think, oh, I'm just going to continue playing on the TV.
Since having the Switch, Emma has found her love for games again. My girlfriend's like, she's playing games all the time because they're games that suit her. They suit everyone, and she can take it away and play handheld. Like, she don't want me to watch her, because all she keeps saying is, no, it's embarrassing. Like, you're good at games, so I don't want to show you that. So she can just take it away, and if I want to play it, like, I normally only play it on the TV, because playing games like Breath of the Wild, or playing games like Super Mario, playing games like Mario Odyssey, I can sit there. Oh, it's just great, man. Those games,
But they lined it up perfectly with the launch of those games. You know, like they didn't just release the console and then 5 years later they released a Zelda game. The Wii U also was waiting for the Zelda game, and that same Zelda game to come out for so many years, and people were like, we need a new Zelda game. You know, and it's like it matched up perfectly with the Switch. And I don't have a Switch, obviously, but I've seen like so many people just ecstatic with both Mario and Zelda, and that's the two like main games that people want to be good from a Nintendo console.
Yeah,
you know?
They were the two big. Like I remember there was quite a few Nintendo consoles that came up that didn't have Mario and Zelda like at the same time. You know, you had Super Mario World or whatever, but they had both of them. But it did also come out on the Wii U, which is where I first played it.
We're sort of digressing now because we're moving on to, you know, Wii U's and Switches, but like I think we've done a pretty good job of covering some awesome memories as well.
The problem is, like when discussing like handheld games, is there's just so many. It's just like saying, oh, let's discuss console games. You know, there's just like there's so many. But what I really liked is the fact that like even on the same machine, like the Game Boy Advance, we've all got different experiences. They're like linked to a place that you were. Okay, so the Game Gear, yeah, you're stuck in your room because it like ate the 6 batteries that it took up. But you know, like you said, even nowadays, the handheld experience lives on. Like you can go on the airplane. Well, one day it'll be able to go on the airplane again.
Yeah, it's true.
And you can have this like this handheld experience that's actually like in front of you in a new revised kind of way. So the handheld lives on.
Steve was like, yeah, you should make it more concise and like try and so there's not so many spread out games. And like we've spoken about more games in this episode than we did in the last one.
Yeah, when you're in the middle of it, it's so difficult to see.
Yeah, of course, so many memories. There's so much retro, and there's another bro. You know, we got another one. Imagine when Chris comes on and there's 4 of us. Yeah. I think we could probably wrap it up there. What do you think?
Well, Steve, you should definitely come on another episode. I don't know whether you'll be free and stuff, but. And what the next topic is, but it's been awesome having you part of the podcast today. And it's only our second one, so it's not like we've been doing them for very long, but I think we'll probably continue doing these, right?
Yeah, I'd be delighted. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think for now, stay tuned and keep watching for another episode of the Retro Bros.